Good evening and welcome to the Acton Elementary School budget meeting tonight. We welcome the Warrant and Finance Committee here with us for our second budget meeting. And we're going to start with a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'm just going to turn this over to Mr. Ross now
Okay.
to do his thing with the budget.
Well, thank you, Judy, and thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. And I think what we'll do is, I was wondering how we're going to introduce ourselves tonight, because it's always something different. And Joyce and Judy made it easy for me, because Joyce was talking about a song that's been running through her head, so I'm going to pick on her first. But Judy showed up with her budget book, and she's got music sheets in front of it.
I'll
Because
explain.
She'll
when it's my
explain when it's
turn.
her turn. I'm like, wow, so it's a music thing. So if we could, we'll start with Joyce, and we'll go around this way, and I guess we'll end with Leslie. And who are you, and what's your favorite band?
Oh, who am I? I wonder. Joyce Bakshi. And actually, I'm so old, I don't have a favorite band today, but I am a B.B. King.
Nice.
Absolutely, yeah.
Joyce?
I'm a B.B. King person. The thrill is gone.
Hi, Steve Bike, I'm new to the committee. I've been in town for about 26, 27 years. Retired, so I have a lot of time to fill. So, favorite band is probably Daughtry.
There you go, Steve. Nice, welcome.
Dennis Long, Warrant Finance Committee. I guess my favorite band at this point in my life is probably my waistband.
Very good. Joe, come on over. Okay.
I didn't know
I think Joe needs a book too.
Needs a book.
Yeah.
Paul, yeah.
Yeah. Joe.
Paul, you got a
Thank
book
you.
for Joe?
Selectmen. And I'm gonna change my favorite band from
Yeah,
last year.
yeah.
Let's go this time with Joe Bonamassa.
Todd Rundgren last year?
Last year was Jeff.
Jethro Tull, Todd Rundgren, Jethro Tull, kind of same era, okay. Thank you, John.
Mine hasn't changed, it's
Nope.
the same. Van Halen.
Oh, yay.
We missed Joe.
Joe just said that, Joe know what we're doing?
Special band? Or?
Yeah, it's who are you and what's your
Who are
favorite
you?
band tonight?
Joe Rumor. I live on San Page Road. And as far as the band, I've been enjoying the late reminiscence of Bob Dylan the last couple of years.
Ah,
Yeah.
Right on.
I am
That's
Matt Calder, IT coordinator here at Acton, and I'll go with ZZ Top's my favorite band, and pretty much any kind of blues since I am from Mississippi.
That beard's not a giveaway there, Mr. ZZ Top.
Never would have guessed.
I'm Paula Lantang, I'm the finance director. And I love the music, I love the Beatles.
Okay.
Hi,
Hi.
Terry Minahan. I'm on the school committee, and Three Dog Night.
Nice.
Mhm.
I've listened to
Yeah.
that lately.
Yeah,
Got to see them in concert once.
I'm jealous.
I'm CJ Gardner, school committee, and my favorite group is the Chicks, formerly the Dixie Chicks.
Yeah.
I saw them.
Amanda Cobb, school committee, and I love Tom Petty.
See Tom Petty.
Jeanette Burris, school committee. Haven't a clue. I guess I was too busy to listen to all these things.
It's all that AM radio you listen to, there's no music
In the
on.
middle of the night.
Yeah.
You
Give
can
you
tell
pass.
us it's Lawrence Welk, we know.
Oh, dear God,
Oh,
please.
Jeanette's a secret Swiftie.
Right.
well, my favorite band still remains to be Rockadile, which is my grandson's little band.
Oh, there you go.
But my music joke that John was talking about is I have two white notebooks. One I take to church for my that I play music for the praise team at my church, and the other one is this one. And so I looked in my bag Sunday morning, and I said, okay, my white notebook's there, I'm all set. Get down there, I take it out of the bag, and all I have is a budget. I have no music. So I had to have the pastor go and make me copies of the music that I needed to play for church. And so I still have in the front of my book, here's a little bit of music.
Play us a tune.
Till I take it out.
Play us a tune.
Thank you, Judy. I'm John Ross, Superintendent, and I've been listening to a lot of REM.
Yeah.
Listen, I've been really enjoying it.
Leslie Berland, Sonny Landreth.
Oh, okay,
Good.
very good.
And we started with Joyce. Hey, Dave, you were talking about a band earlier today. You have a favorite band?
Well, today it's
Yeah.
the band.
The band.
Because
Yeah.
the last surviving
Yeah.
member,
Yeah.
Garth Hudson, passed
Yeah.
away
That's right.
yesterday, and
Yep.
I'm a big music historian, and they're very
There you go.
involved in American
I
music.
don't know.
How did he say that?
The
Why are
band.
they
The
called?
band.
I didn't get the name of the guy who died. That's it.
Yeah. They weren't the nitty gritty dirt band, it was a band.
They were Dylan.
They
Yeah.
were the band. For Bob
Band, but
Bob
band
Dylan.
backup with Dylan.
All right. Let me get beyond Article 6. All right, so I will start with, if you remember, we start each one of our meetings with our 6 strive statements. And our strive statements for this evening, working together, are we will strive to work together as a community that values the education our children receive at AES. We'll strive to be fully present at the meetings by becoming familiar with the materials and being attentive. We'll strive to invite and welcome the contributions of every member and listen to each other. We'll strive to be involved to our individual level of comfort. Each of us is responsible for airing any disagreements during the meeting rather than carrying those disagreements outside of the meeting. We'll strive to operate in a collegial and friendly atmosphere, and we'll strive to be responsible for examining all points of view. So, you should have articles tonight given to you, Articles 6 and 10, and we're going to start with 6. And Matt Calder is our new IT coordinator, and some of his IT information is here, and that's why we asked him to be here with us. And Article 10, when we get to it, is the operations and maintenance, which is Andy Brazier, and we've asked him to be here with us tonight too, in case if you have any questions, these two gentlemen can help us. And if I could, I'll just go over, start the meeting with how does this work? We look at our sheet working left to right. We have the secondary source, which this is just accounting. These are numbers that Paula needs to use to keep our accounting straight per state accounting rules. Then you'll see the 23-24 actuals. You'll see the 24-25 actuals, and then you'll actually see what we've actually spent to date. You'll see the budget and then the proposed budget moving into next year. That would be a July 1 budget if passed. The difference in money, meaning the number difference, but then also the percent increase or decrease. And then lastly, you'll see some notations. We try to put some notations in there to give you some clarity, but also understand that you'll probably have more questions than what those notations provide you for information. I will caution that when you look at the percentage increase, you need to just know what percentage you're looking at. It might have been a $100 item. It's a $200 item. You're saying, whoa, that's a 100% increase, but go back and look, it was only $100. So really look at the numbers and the percentage and formulate your questions based on that. So before we get going, and I'll bring us right down through each one of these line items, and we'll also just kind of, when we hit that first benefits piece, those are as I mentioned in the last meeting, those are fixed. You know, that's your FICA, your main state retirement, those kinds of things. Those are you're gonna see those everywhere. So when we hit those, I generally like to try to move down to an item that has a little more conversation, let's just say. Are there any questions before we get going from anybody? Okay, seeing none, we'll start with Article 6, student support staff. And we have the salaries paid to the professionals. Then you'll see the salaries for the social worker, nurse, and librarian.
John,
Yeah, go ahead, Dennis.
combined on that is 3 positions.
Yep,
Could we have a breakdown of those 3 positions?
we can. Paula, do you have the detail with each one of them?
I do.
I do too. Do you want to take that?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the project for next year? Yep.
You want just the increase per,
The salaries.
Their salaries?
The proposed salaries.
Okay.
okay, So the social worker is $56,455.91.
56 for,
$455.91. The nurse is $77,905.91.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yep, $77,905.91.
Thank you.
The librarian is $64,231.84.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Dennis.
Appreciate that.
Did you say 64 or 54?
64.
Okay.
Yep.
and are
Okay.
these all full-time positions?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
The next one is salary of regular employees, and that's only one employee in the IT tech department. And you can see that there's a difference, and the difference there from what we have this year to where we're going next year, I believe, Paula, is an increase in hours.
Yes, last year we budgeted 180 hours, and next year we're budgeting 200 hours.
Days.
Days, sorry.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
200 hours.
Days,
You're not gonna be around very long.
You're underpaying him.
Yeah,
That's efficiency.
yes.
Yeah. We got it on film, Matt, sorry.
Hey, the 200
Wait, I take
you
that
said.
back. I want the 180, the 200 hours.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Salaries for temporary employees paid as substitutes, as you can see, there's a $1,200 placeholder there. No change, it's flat. And then there's some stipends in this cost center, and you'll see stipends in different cost centers. In this cost center, the stipends are the stipends paid for mentoring, PBIS, team leaders, recertification of staff, and the summer coordinator. And you're looking at about a $1,100, almost a $1,200 difference, or a 4.5% increase there. Now, this is our first benefits that we're hitting, and it looks like the next 4 or 5 lines, if you're following me, are all benefits that are fixed. If you have a question and you weren't here last time, please feel free. Paula has the benefits information in there. They're static throughout the whole process. They're the same. I mean, the number's not the same, but the percentage increase is the same, I should say.
You still don't have any answer yet from insurance, what the percentage?
No,
Not
and I
yet.
actually got an email, and we won't get that till the middle of April.
Oh,
Oh, my
nice.
gosh.
Didn't last week you used like 11%?
We did.
Last time?
We did.
We
And
did.
This one is 18.
Are we going to the next?
Do you have, John, do you have a question about, so it's actually 7 down gets us beyond the benefits, but do you have a benefits question? We could definitely take it.
Oh, okay, all right, no, so it's the next one, it's group health, okay.
Yep.
Yep. So it looks like I'm gonna pick it up at, it's gonna be 2510, source 2510 on your left side. And the notation's gonna say tuition reimbursement per CBA contract with professional staff. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's tuition reimbursement, it's flat at $24,000. And Paula did a quick audit of who's gonna continue with their education, and we have more this year. But if you look at the actuals, we don't always use it. So this year, we're anticipating that we're gonna probably use the lion's share of that, because we have to have an understanding of not only people taking classes, which is this line item, it pays for those classes and it's in the collective bargaining agreement, but also that if they move over a column because they have a bachelor's plus 15, or they move to a master's, we need to know that, because that changes their regular salary too. So that's why Paula asked those questions before we put this together. The next one is going to be tuition reimbursement for support staff, which is $6,000 with no change. It's flat. Professional employee training and development services, which is the contracted services for IT. You can see that that's down by almost 50%. And I can speak a little bit to that. Paula might be able to speak a little bit to that, because you've worked with Matt, and we're feeling like now that Matt's got, quote, legs under him, he's been here, he'll be here for a full school year. By the time we implement this budget, he knows a lot more than when we brought him in. We didn't know Matt when we built this budget, so we had some consulting fees there to support Matt, but we're feeling like he can do a lot on his own without that support, so we reduced that quite a bit. Okay. Now we're on other professional services, which is contracted services for the nurse and the social worker. And what's in that is every school, even we have a nurse, she needs to be able to handle prescriptions, so she has a written agreement with a medical institution, I believe it's York Hospital.
Yes.
And that stays pretty static, but we also added this year some 504 services in there because we were taking it out of special ed, and we really shouldn't be building the 504 services in the special ed budget. It really should be where the social worker lives because she's the 504 coordinator.
What's the
What is 504?
So a 504 is not special ed, but it can be an accommodation, and it could be and I'll give you an example of a 504 that's really easy to understand. A student gets injured and can't have certain, say, motor functions, breaks an arm. Okay, so a 504 might be certain kinds of things that he or she cannot do, say in the science lab or in gym or in the music class because of the inability to use the right arm. So a 504, it can be temporary until that arm is healed and can go back to full service in your learning. And in some times, a 504 can be something that is considered a disability, but not a learning disability, not an IEP type disability. And a 504 can be in place to allow accommodations, the word's accommodations, okay, for students with 504s. And we have a number of them that are in a 504 world and not in special ed. Did that answer? I hope,
I
yeah.
thought you were going to say it was Dennis. You know, he would have been a 504.
Make me sit in the middle of the table so everybody can look, so
The next one is repairs and services for laptops and large computer technology at 5,100 with no change. Nothing changed there. Our photocopier agreements are flat. Nothing's changed with 6,250. Software repairs and maintenance. Software maintenance program is up 17%. I might look to you two or Matt. That's high enough to probably get an explanation. How's that sound?
So every one of our software packages that we use has had an increase for next year. We tried to budget for the increase, although they don't want to. They'll give me a 30-day quote is all they'll give me. So I can't give you a July 1 number, obviously. But so we've used the numbers that they've given us. I did add in, if I don't poke myself in the eye, I did add in 3 pieces of software, which takes about 6% or so of that total number. Some cybersecurity software, which is the bulk of that money, around $3,000 for the increase in software. Adding in Google Plus, which gives us some more security and some extra for the teachers to be able to use. And then we have in the lower grades Jolly Classroom. The teachers were using a different product from the same company that they don't offer anymore, and that piece is $300 for the building for the year. So those are the 3 new pieces that were brought in, and all the rest of the increase is all increase in cost for them. We did not add any other pieces of software. We've tried to go through as well to looking with John, Brandon, Paul, and myself, looking at the different software packages that we offer, trying to limit the amount that we're using in the building, not only for money, but for continuity from grades, pre-K up to 8.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
when we had, last week, a couple weeks ago, we talked about needing some new equipment, and that's not part of this.
No, I think that's going to come right. It's going to come up, Dennis.
Okay.
It stands out pretty solidly in the percent increase. You'll see it when you'll know when you see it.
Well, you could always hope, yeah.
Yeah, travel for this cost center. Paula and I met, talked a little bit. We've dropped that significantly because it doesn't seem like it was getting used. So that the historical trend on this account is, it's $1,200 this year. Maybe next year we'll even lower it again. But we're going to see what happens by dropping that by 40%. So it drops to $1,200 from $2,000. Supplies for the librarian, the social worker, and nurse is down $500. Books and periodicals is flat, and that's books for the library, right where we are now. Technology supplies is flat at $2,500. Library equipment, we took that right out.
Yeah.
There was something that Jen used to use for her point of sale for like the book fair, and it didn't seem like it warranted being in the budget anymore, so we took it out. Equipment, here it is. Yeah, I figured everybody go, wow, look at that, Mr. Ross. So I'll do my best to kind of throw this out there, and we can have any kind of conversation you want, but the town was very, very generous, very much supports the school. And last year, if you remember right, we had those other articles that were to use reserve monies to the tune of about $465,000. And we did a ton of security upgrades. We did a lot of work in the kitchen. There was a lot of concern about safety. We've met all those needs. People were like, look, you gotta tighten the place up. And mission accomplished, except for we're still working on the sidewalks, Andy, right? But
Correct.
we have the money. You had met with 3 contractors, so I know we're heading in that direction. So the long-range planning committee's table, as you would say, over 5 years of things we wanted to do, pretty much was taken care of with that vote last spring, which we're very, very fortunate to have from the citizens. So then we took a look at the infrastructure for our IT, and I mentioned this last year at the end of the school year too. It's like, well, we've been not really ignoring it, but in our former administration for IT, the individual was clever and was able to kind of keep things rolling for us, but it was very much almost like intellectual knowledge that person carried with them. So it's a little difficult if these systems were built by one person for another person to come in and understand what's going on. So the Long Range Planning Committee has another table with IT, and we go out 5 years. But in this next year to turn the page, we have some IT upgrades we need that I put in the budget. So there it is. When we get to the end and we look at our up or down or where we are, we may just make a decision, let's pull it out. And the decision to pull it out is to keep it out of the general budget, but to then maybe make it a separate article to raise and appropriate funds for technology and make that a separate article other than our general budget. But I thought it was okay to put it in there now. Let's see how it goes. And if it really pushes the budget into a place where we're not comfortable, we'll go back and remove that. But I will recommend that, and it's up to the school committee. My recommendation will be, we're not going to ignore this, we're just going to put it in another place. And we'll see what the citizens say.
What does the equipment consist of?
Matt, that's why Matt's here. He's the expert in this field.
All right, so the long range for next year, the dollar amount there is $50,000. That's in that $81,000. So that takes us to, just making sure my numbers are right. So the proposed is 81. 50,000 of that is part of that long range. The equipment that is listed in the long range is, servers, which is about 25,000. Firewall, which is about 15,000, and then make sure I'm missing something. Oh yeah, doing a little work around our server closet that we have in the back to make sure that it stays cooler than what it does now. And then we've got a built-in that's about 4,000, and then we built in 6,000 for some consulting fees for when we get those firewalls and servers in place. So when you take the 50 off, you're left with about 31 for the overall equipment budget, which is an increase from last year's budget of 20,000. I believe is where'd the number go? Yeah, 20,000 is what is in this fiscal year's budget. So it's an increase, but what we have kind of done over the past 3, 4, 5 years is we have not utilized MLTI through the state as much as we need to.
You might want to explain that. We know what MLTI is,
Yep.
but okay.
So because we haven't utilized it as much, we've spent some money buying Chromebooks, MacBooks for the teachers and the staff, for the students and the staff. Those devices are getting older. We're not on what I call a refresh in a cycle. I prefer a 5-year cycle on those Chromebooks and for the teacher and staff devices to maintain them so they don't get too old and we're not spending a lot of money in repairs. We have quite a few that are older. With the Chromebooks, they're great. They'll last for 10 years with the software. They'll get updates from Google and they work like they're supposed to. but after about 5 years, they start falling apart physically. The plastic on them breaks, the screws don't stay in them anymore, and you would be surprised how many times a week I'm putting screws into Chromebooks because they just loosen. The students are not unscrewing these screws. I mean, some of them could be, but not so much. So the MLTI is a program that the state started. This goes back to when Angus was governor, and he created him and everybody else in Augusta created the program to try to increase test scores. And it started as a 7th and 8th grade program, eventually became a 1-to-1 MacBook to student ratio. Eventually it expanded, covered lots of different things. But what it boils down to for us and for all the other districts is the state provides $459 per student for a device. We use Chromebooks in the building for all of our grades. There's always a Chromebook option for MLTI every year that is $459 or less. So we buy them, the state reimburses us that $459. So in essence, 1 grade per year we can have replenished or refreshed for free from the state. Meaning our taxpayers aren't directly paying for it, but all in the state are paying for it. So we're utilizing that. We did last summer, so we replaced 1 grade like we're allowed to. This summer we'll do another grade. But we really need to do 2 grades per year, which is where that increase from the 20,000 comes in. So if we cover 2 grades per year, every 5 years we'll have new devices. Now when we get to year 5, which is down the road from now, it's possible that we might be able to push some of it off a year. But where we sit right now, we need to do 2 grades per year to get us caught up. So that's where the bulk of that money comes from. They also put in a staff number in that MLTI number. We as a district will choose the grade that we're going to replenish or refresh every year. And when we choose that grade, they will then turn around and give us the number based on our enrollment, how many they're going to give us, how many devices we can purchase. They give us a 10% on spares, and then they'll give us a number for staff. So we can turn around and say, okay, we're going to replenish or refresh X number. We do not have to purchase all of the devices for the staff. And the reason I say that is because they only give us $459 per device for staff as well. But we buy MacBooks for the staff, and they run about $1,200 or $1,300 depending on the year. And we only get $459 back from the state. So we're in, close to $700 we're paying out ourselves for those. So I put in the budget to do 12 of those MacBooks for the staff. That's the number that we have refreshed this year with some of our money. We will see what number they actually give us before that number becomes final. They might come back this year and say, well, you only get 8. So this past year, the number was, I believe it was higher than 12. I think they told us we could do 15, but we chose the amount that we wanted to spend there. And we'll do the same thing this coming year once they give us the numbers, which, based on the email today, those numbers won't be available until April. Everything's April. Any questions?
Yeah.
Very thorough.
Yes, sir.
Could you give us, not tonight, obviously, for our next meeting, a breakdown of what it compiles at 80-some-odd thousand in writing so we can sit down and read it and think about it?
You just want a breakdown of what is
what
included.
The
you
long
said.
range.
Yeah, the long range.
And
Okay.
this is nothing really to do with math, or maybe it does. As I know, and Mr. Cody knows, because he was part of it, this computer system in this school is, for lack of better words, jerry-rigged, okay? We went from having hardwired everything, which volunteers spent many a weekend in here running miles of wire, as Andy knows, the ceiling's full of it. Well, maybe it's not anymore, but it was. And then we went to wireless, and then we've gone 2 or 3 steps since. And myself personally, what you're asking for is very justifiable, the new servers, and I also know that temperature control is very important, because when we originally had the computer lab down there, we put in a unit to keep the temperature so it didn't go above 75 or whatever it was. So all of that, from my experience, is surely justified. And that's just my opinion.
I'll get you the numbers. I have them all already. I'll just
I'm
put it
sure you
into
You
a
do.
an easy format to
Yeah.
read.
Yeah, just the detail would be easier for the people, because somebody's gonna say something about it later down the road.
Down the
Might-
road.
Might not be at this meeting or at school meeting, but it is a warrant finance meeting, I'm sure it's gonna be. And I'd like to be able to not give it as well as you did, but my side of it anyway, with some information to back it up with.
I'll get it for you, and
Excellent.
then if y'all ever have any questions,
Yep. That'd
You know
be
where to
great
find
to
me.
get it out next meeting. And the other thing that, where you guys brought it up, could we also get a copy of your long-term plan?
Oh, yeah, the long-range plan table?
Long-range plan?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually-
copy of that for the 5-year plan.
You bet, Dennis, because the first, like, the FY '26 budget that we're working on is the information that Matt just described, but there's 4 more years out there.
Exactly.
We'll give you the whole thing, and then
I
an
appreciate
explanation
it.
of year 1, which is next year.
I appreciate it for our next meeting.
We need that terribly so. But if
Okay.
I understand you at all, and that's 24-25 budget was $20,000. Now, if we take out everything that, we're going up 11,000 on the main budget, the main part of the budget.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so, right, Matt explained that as the MLTI program and the
Yeah, with
increase.
the
Yeah.
MLTI.
That's your, so if we were to pull this out and do a separate warrant article
Yeah.
for the upgrades,
Right.
you'd still be looking at an $11,000 increase in the general
In the
budget.
general fund,
Yep.
but that's.
Yep, exactly.
That's what I was, yeah. Yeah.
I would like to see that taken out
As a special warrant or just take it out?
as a warrant article by itself.
Oh, well, yeah, a special article.
Yeah, and of course, if we did that, it would have its own explanation, and it would have more conversation too on the, I'm sure everywhere this budget goes, all the way to the town floor in April,
Well,
so.
it's at the town
I'm
floor.
having a feeling it might, but I wanted to put it in here, and we could have that healthy conversation tonight, and we can have that same conversation when we get to the end of the budget process if it gets pulled out,
But one of
as
my
to how that's
concerns-
written.
One of my concerns about that, John, and I know we're early in the game, one of my concerns is we don't know what staff contracts are gonna be.
Mm-hmm,
We don't know what the increases are gonna be.
mm-hmm.
The same
At
with
the
insurance.
bottom line. So what my concern is, and I'm just throwing this number out there, say if it ends up that the school budget's up 5%, 8%, or whatever because of cost increases and stuff. I don't want this to drive up the increase, is what I'm saying in the actual school budget. And I believe that the town will still support that separate warrant article. I can't imagine they wouldn't, because it's very well explained. And in the overall budget, well, that's really not the reason, it's because of this, it's because of that. You know what I mean? It ends up in a lot of more controversy. And that's why I'd like to see it separate. I really would, because I don't want it to drive up.
Okay.
I want the budget increases to be necessary isn't the right word I'm trying to use, but we have to have this to operate. Okay,
It's gonna be
successfully.
justified. It's
You know
gonna
what
be
I mean?
justified.
And
This is
all this is
what it
very
is.
justified, but for us to explain it sometimes, it doesn't get.
You bet, yeah.
And I'd rather see the budget without the extra in it.
Yep, we'll
That's
know
all-
when we
that's
look.
just me.
Yeah. No, I hear you, Dennis, and I have a feeling, that's what I said right out of the gate, that it's probably gonna be a separate warrant article. We'll discuss it tonight while we have Matt at the table, and when we talk about our revenues, when we see what we have coming in, that'll help us understand what our,
Everything.
it will help us everything, and then we'll know if that, that just needs to go into a separate article.
Yep.
Okay, noted. Any more conversation with that? I'll move on. Hearing none, okay. We are at dues for IT and professional staff, which is flat at $830. And the program supplies for the social worker, we looked at the trend there, and we just took it out. So there's a 100% decrease, or $1,000 there. And then your increases over, your percentages coming down now should work for us. We had a formula issue last time, which, did we give everybody new
Yes.
sheets?
Yeah.
Perfect,
Yes.
good, because that was something we should have done at the beginning.
Yep.
All right, excellent, we got done. All right, so,
Before we move on,
yeah,
John,
Dennis?
I was told that the school audit is done. Is that true?
I just this afternoon received the draft, so I haven't even looked at it yet.
Okay, so you don't have the estimated number yet?
No, I need to proof it.
Yeah.
And she has some questions still.
No,
so,
that's
yeah.
fine.
But we're getting there.
Okay. Thank you, John.
You bet, Dennis. All right, now, Matt, if you needed to drive, because you got a little bit of a drive, this would be your exit. You could sit around and listen to how well Andy does with his, now that he's learned so much from you. I mean, come on. There you go, Matt. I'm giving you an out. Take it. I'm giving you an out. Take it. Smart man.
Thank you, Matt.
Matt, thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Email if you need anything, or you know where to find me.
Okay, our next one that we're working on, we have Andy with us tonight, is our Article 10. Again, everything works left to right. Nothing's different in this article than the one we just looked at. And we will start with the salary of the regular employees, which is the salaries and wages for all custodial staff. And there's 4 of them. The difference is just under $7,000 or just under 3.5%.
Is all that employees, do they all get the same percentage, or is it on a tiered?
They're on a step.
That's what I mean,
Yeah.
like if I was here 1 year, I'd get whatever, if I was here 10 years, I'd get a different.
Yeah.
Are the,
There's chart in the contracts.
Yeah.
So
How many
they're,
years?
that's
right.
contractual?
Yeah.
They're contractual,
Yeah,
right?
the
Okay.
custodians
Okay.
are on the same contract as, like the ed techs
Yeah.
Okay.
and cafeteria workers.
Okay.
I knew that, I apologize,
Yep.
It's okay.
Are we back to that 504?
In a lot of schools, also the bus drivers might be grouped in there as well. We contract, so we don't have a CBA for bus drivers, so it's
The
just. so-
bigger
sports
schools
ed.
will have a custodian contract, an ed tech contract, a support,
Yeah,
like
you know,
admin
secretary
assistant.
contract.
Yeah.
everything.
yeah, they'd be broken out.
Yeah.
Well, considering I was one of the big players starting the union for support staff, you'd think I'd remember that.
So the
Who
salary,
remembers that?
we also have substitutes covering custodial staff if somebody calls out sick. Andy does a great job at covering it himself if he can. And that's flat at $2,500. Overtime wages, overtime paid to cover snow removal, emergency repairs, weekend work for school programs. That's flat, it's $3,000. We've been really, we haven't been hit with the snowstorms in the last couple of years. Not really much this year and very little last year. Not very typical of Acton. The stipend is the vehicle stipend to the director use of his truck and the cell phones in there as well. That's flat at $6,900. No change. Employee benefits, that's the benefits paid on the stipend. Okay, yeah, at $500, so that's considered income. That's why. Now we're into those the benefits that include, and I'm going to count down how many from there. 1, 2, 3. Go down 3, and we're going to pick it up with building tech services, which is source 3,000 on the left. It says building tech services on the right, and it's flat at $2,500.
Are there two source 3000s?
What?
Substitute benefits
Oh, yeah, you're right.
and purchase professional and technical services are both source 3000.
Yeah.
Let me look at the detail. I think that can happen. The source code can be the same.
I guess it's really,
It's the next 2 numbers that changes it, which
Yeah.
they don't have, but we have it on the detail.
Sure, no
Yep.
problem.
Yeah, I'm looking really quick. There's several source 2600s. Yeah, it's the accounting, right?
No
No,
problem.
good catch though. Yeah. Now security upgrades. Security and security upgrades. It's up 18,000 in this budget. And Andy, this was what when I came back from Alice training, right? I said put it in the
Correct.
budget. Yeah. Well, I talked about that because I'm the one that asked you to put it
Okay,
in.
yep.
Okay. So one of the things is this Alice program that we're learning is pretty interesting, and I went away almost a month ago to become a trainer, and I learned a lot about other areas of the school, for instance, outside. So one of the things was a takeaway is what we really need out for the kids on the playground on any given day is some sort of speaker. We don't have an outside intercom. I've worked in buildings that have an outside intercom. We don't in Acton. The intercom's inside. So by having a corner speaker that faces out towards the soccer fields and covers the playground to kind of say, please listen now, we're in a safety, we need to come in or we need to go out or whatever we're doing, whatever we're telling the kids and the staff, we need to hear it. But the other one is a visual. Just a simple little, like in the old days when the volunteers would put the red light on their dashboard, it's about that big and it goes like this. And if you see that, the kids will be trained and the staff will be trained. We're listening and we're waiting for our next instruction. So you have the speaker and the light for the back of the school for the outside area. There's two other places where you can't hear a thing, and I can tell you if you use a radio in this building, you'll know when we're trying to reach, Will Cody down in the calf. You're better off walking down and talking to him because you can't hear. It's just it's a general population, and there's 100 kids in there, and it just gets noisy. Even though they're really good, it's still a lot of noise for a radio. So if they're in the calf and a light goes off, everybody will be trained to be like, whoop, zero voice, time out, something's happening, we need to listen. We need to listen right now. Because right now it would take probably 3 to 4 minutes to quiet them down to get to understand what's going on. In an emergency, 3 to 4 minutes is a lifetime. It really is. So we're going to look to insert that. We have the speaker in the calf. That's not a problem, but we need the light. The other one is the gym. In the gym. Our gym teacher, I talked to her, Audrey, she often will, she knows there's a safety drill coming, she's listening for it. Unannounced one, they might miss it for good reason. So again, a little arm that comes out with a light and the speaker's already there. So I think I covered it. Isn't that what we talked about when I came home?
Yeah, we talked about a number of areas. The music room was another one.
The music room and the bus doors?
The bus doors.
Yep.
Anywhere, like where you mentioned, where there's a lot of people together all at once and it can drown out the sound of the intercom.
Yep.
And then once we have those in place, we'll actually establish and build our protocol around those areas. So it was the strobe lights, and we also talked about the possibility of more cameras and the intercom.
Would you think, Andy, that, I know sometimes it happens, not all the time, but sometimes there's classes out here in the front of the school, they might go out and sit in a circle or something like that. Don't you think it would be good to have a intercom on this side of the school too? Both sides.
Well, the other thing is.
I understand the cost.
Yep, I mean, we're still establishing all of the areas that we need to identify. We have increased security tremendously in the last few years. The other thing that we've implemented is the emergency radios.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't long ago, before John was here, all we used to communicate was little disposable radios. So one of the best things that we did was we bought good radios for
Good
the school.
UHF licenses.
So that we could communicate. So whenever the teachers go out on the athletic fields, outside in the front, they carry a radio with them,
So
and
they'd
we
be
can
privy to
communicate
it.
from the office or however we have to communicate. And then, was it 3 years ago, we went with the emergency radios?
It was
Two
two years ago with some COVID money.
We implemented the
Yep.
emergency radios, which are programmed on a different channel separately. So you have your regular radio that you use for all of your operational communications. Then you have a separate radio, like say we go into a lockdown or some scenario, emergency scenario, everybody goes to channel 2. So the communication inside and outside the building has increased and been tightened up tremendously. John, through his training, safety training, has identified more things that can be done to secure the building, and it's all about communication and awareness. And like John said, you know, when you go into a scenario, 2 or 3 minutes can feel like a lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of the ALIS training is designed to tighten up that time window however you can. If you save 30 seconds on a response time, it's a big deal when a lot of these events only last 2 minutes in duration. So, when John and I sat down and looked at this as far as identifying the areas that we need to tighten up, there were a number of them. It was well received by the staff, I believe, when it was taken back to the staff. And the town has always been very supportive whenever we talk safety and security. And honestly, I think that every time we see the need or the opportunity to tighten things up, we should definitely do it.
Now, the
It's not even-
loudspeaker outside would still come out of the main office. You wouldn't, would you be able to, like, would you be able to speak to through the loudspeaker from your radio?
You could do it from a phone, Dennis.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be the front office.
Okay.
We have the capability, and we're gonna get ourselves there, we're gonna train the teachers that if right now, anybody in the building can call a lockdown.
Yeah.
If they see something and they're like, this is not okay,
Yeah.
they can call a lockdown, they can call it into the front office, but we can also get our phones to set that to the internal comm, right? Which
Yeah.
would also now be this external comm that we're talking about.
Okay.
Anybody could if they see the need to call a lockdown.
The other thing, and this is from a meeting with the fire chief,
Yeah.
and I know you guys have met with him many times, but he was talking about some new radios that have two, I know you, John, and I don't really know about it, but you have a radio that you can talk with the staff and stuff, and then you also have a radio you can talk to the police.
Correct. So I have the same radio. So the administrators and people, so the administrators have a channel 1 radio. And then we have channel 1 radios for people that are gonna go, Dave Cody's gonna go out and do some
Yeah.
science experiment. He's gonna take a radio with him. Recess, they always take radios with them. That's channel 1. Every learning space, not every classroom plus every learning space, because remember in a lockdown, you might find yourself going into a special ed small one-on-one room
Right.
because it's the safest place to go. There will be an emergency radio on there, which is a channel 2 radio. And then beyond that, I have, through the sheriff's department with training, and I've signed off on it, a police radio that transmits.
So
So I can quarterback here with every door number from the building through I don't even have to go through dispatch.
Right.
Everybody's gonna call dispatch. I'm already on
But you're
the
using
radio.
2 different radios.
I-
Or you could be.
I could be, and the only anybody here could use that police radio, but I would either have to not be here or be incapacitated. Otherwise,
Yeah.
they'd get in big trouble. I'm the only one that can really use it.
So I guess my point is, and I really don't know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But the fire chief does. He's looking at a new radio.
Yeah.
He'd like to be able to get new radios. And you have the 2 different on the same radio. And so you can say, talk to fire.
Yeah, okay. I know
And
what
then
you're
you
saying.
can
What
talk
channel? Yeah.
but it's the same radio.
Right. That would work. I can see how that would work for the fire department.
And so
Yeah.
I guess my thought was, maybe for you and Andy and whoever else, if you could get this to one radio and be able to do multiple things on it.
When Wayne has what he needs, I could go to Southern Maine Communication with permission from the sheriff's department, because I didn't buy this radio.
Right,
It's
that's
on
where-
loan.
that's where
They
they
own
get all
it.
their stuff.
It's just
Yeah.
like the same one a deputy's gonna wear if he shows up. You see a
Right.
deputy, it's the same radio. What I do have is a tactical line, so Jeanette can't listen in on her scanner. So that takes care of people wanting to know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? That, when you want, yeah.
Great.
But I could put,
I never tell you what's going on. I
okay.
don't tell you.
Well,
I just
Boonies has
listen.
one on all the time too,
Oh,
when I
they
go up there to
do?
get
Oh, is that
gas. I
right?
can
All
hear
right, good
everything.
for them.
What we can do though, I can talk to Wayne, chief,
Just had a conversation.
if he has the right, like, I need to know what the band is, and if
Sure.
the sheriff's department says, we're okay with you adding that Acton Fire Department as channel 4, let's say, on the police radio,
Whatever it is.
it's good. Gonna be their call, because I don't own it.
Right.
Right.
But it'd be nice if you.
No,
could-
it's,
you
I'm
just
glad
had
we
one
know they're
radio,
doing that, yeah, yeah.
You know.
What about cameras? I mean, yes, sorry.
Cameras for security. You
Yeah.
probably talk about that better than I can, because you can get on them.
Um,
You and Amanda.
Matt and I have talked some. I'm not as familiar with the camera system as he is, and Mike had, you know.
Yeah, he was our
Mike
camera
the-
guy.
Kind of the driving force behind the camera system. But when we purchased that camera system, it was actually quite a while ago now, but we did have the capability of adding more cameras to any areas that we found as blind spots. So we talked about having one on the playground, we talked about some different areas. So originally, there was a number in there for safety and security of 6,000 before before John brought back some ideas from the Alice training. And that 6,000 was for additional cameras, for different areas that we had found that we think would be essential to add to the system.
Right.
Now,
And these are
Amanda-
recording cameras.
They do. We hold the data for 30 days.
30 days, yeah.
It helps internally. It's been a good year discipline-wise, but when we have internal issues, and it's a child safety issue, but it's not a community safety issue. Say it's not a huge event, but something happens in the bathroom, and I can't get the truth out of anybody who was in there. You just set the camera, you go back, and you figure out the event was within a 15-minute time window. Well, you can sit there and watch, and you know everybody who's been in and out of the bathroom in the next 15 minutes, and you call them in. Say, I know you were in there, what's going on? So those cameras really save a lot of time to get down to what's going on in the building when kids want to do things in private places. We don't know what's going on in the bathroom, but we know who's in there. And it really helps get to the problem solving a lot faster.
But Amanda has quite a setup on her screen
Yeah.
of all these
Yeah.
sections of
Oh, what's
cameras all
amazing
throughout
is
the
that
school.
since we first started the cameras in the building, since we first purchased them, the technology has increased, is so much better now than when we first originally bought that system. So at some point in time, we're gonna have a request to update the system in its entirety. It's just the way the technology goes.
Just think of all the homes that have cameras now, and you,
The
makes it
features
sound
on
like you're
some
home
of
and
the
you're
newer
not.
systems,
Yeah.
I mean, you can zoom in on a license plate from so far away with the system we have. The new ones are so much clearer and so much more precise, it's unbelievable. But
I mean,
that's,
I support everything, you're doing, Andy, you and John working together in the school board. I guess maybe I'm, whatever, I don't know. But it seems like, just like, was it yesterday? Another shooting down there in Tennessee?
Oh, yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it seems like, it's not every day, but it seems like at least every month, you're hearing something about that.
But wasn't that the second one at the same school?
Second one, the same community, or yeah,
Same
yeah.
school, right, the second one.
So my point is, I agree with everything that you guys are talking about. I wish we could do more. And if it was up to me, we'd have a policeman in here every day that the school was open. And if it costs $100,000, it costs $100,000. I really don't care when it comes to the safety of future of our kids.
We've had a lot of positive comments on the double door locks now to get in the
Yeah,
building.
that's great.
People that haven't been here for a while go, oh geez, the outside door's locked now. So you
And
get
Amanda's
you
still
get in the
letting me in.
vestibule and you still can't get in.
Thank you for what you've done, honestly, Andy.
Right?
You don't know how, what it means to an old man.
Okay, thank you that was a rich conversation. Thank you, Andy. Utility services are flat at $4,500, and that's the water testing required by the state, and the gentleman was in just yesterday, I believe. Repair and maintenance services is flat. Now, that's the big account that Andy uses, I call it, to run the building. Of course, there's other ways, but if you can see in the notations, it covers an awful lot of his operational account. Insurance, which is our property insurance, is flat, which is great. Insurance didn't go up there.
John, how many times a year do you test the water?
Andy can help you with that. The guy's here quite a bit.
Yeah, we're on quarterly testing.
Quarterly, there you go.
And then each year we have annual testing. Like
So
during-
5.
Does that include radon? Radon testing?
And also bio. Yeah, Yeah, you know,
I know what you
you know what I mean. I don't,
It's quarterly testing. The quarterly testing is just like, we had, no.
so we have a well, sorry, I
Yes.
started, I threw you off.
But the quarterly testing is required by the state. We contract it out. And it can be anything from what's bumming now, because we had a positive hit for a bacteria one year.
Right.
And when that happened, we were on annual testing. When that happened, they make you treat the system, and there's a lot of things that you have to do to keep your water system functional and operational when that happens. We were on like we were testing like once a month. We're having to treat and shock the system. They only allow you to shock the system so many times before they say, no more drawing water from that well.
Right.
And what we found was, we actually had a crack in the underground holding tank outside, and that's where the bacteria was entering the system. Once we identified that, we were able to bypass that tank, put a smaller tank in the basement, and reconfigure the water system. And then we went from testing monthly to testing quarterly. And I was very pleased with how we came out of that, because we were looking at the possibility of putting in a water treatment system, which would have been costly, and then we would have run into the annual maintenance of the system once we had it. So our water is very good. So the quarterly testing is something that is common. And then during the summer months, usually, we do the lead and copper samples, which are also required by the state.
Where physically is the well in relation to the building?
It's out on the front lawn by the bus circle.
By the bus?
Yep.
Andy, isn't it true, and I doubt they've changed it, but just like you're talking about your lead and copper and your bacteria and all that stuff, but every so many years, they do water tests, and you get about 4 or 5 pages of results of all the different stuff you can't even pronounce in the water. I mean, it's a huge water test.
Yep, actually, I don't know if this is what you're referring to, but the state will send somebody down to do a sanitation inspection.
Okay.
And they'll go through your water system right from the wellhead,
Yeah.
right through your complete distribution system in the entire building.
Yeah.
They'll look at the expansion tanks, they'll look at your pumps. We have a holding tank in the basement. It's a very thorough inspection. Usually when they come, you block out an afternoon to meet with them, and you go through pretty much every building is 3 different ages, so you look at each one of those.
But at one point, when they check your water, it's for like, I'm not gonna say 1,000 different things, but it's a lot of different things.
More comprehensive testing, you
Yes,
mean?
good job with that, Andy, I like that.
Yes, and that's actually done annually.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, they'll send down like a half a dozen bottles to sample, and then they'll give you the full gauntlet of what they're looking for.
See, if you had said that in the very beginning, it'd have been 5 less conversation.
But it's one of those things, I mean, we contract the water testing out to a company.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's like, I know that we're covered and we're in full compliance. So unfortunately, until we hit like a bump in the road, I won't say that I'm not paying attention, because I'm aware.
Right.
But, and that's where like the sanitation report, when they come down, that's kind of a big deal, and you want to really be paying attention to what they have to say when they come, because it can drive, it can impact the budget, obviously, if they see stuff that has
Big money.
to be rectified, so, yeah.
It's money well spent. We're on a well and we're a public school.
Right.
There's plenty of towns in Maine that have schools with public wells. There's plenty that have city water. But, when you have your own well and it's a public facility, you have to protect your residents and your kids. I think we're on advertising, 5,400, am I right?
One more on maintenance.
Okay.
If you don't mind. Last week, the week before, whatever it was, Sandy, the boilers, there's a problem
Yep,
with
right.
repairs.
yep,
And there wasn't a question of whether they were under warranty. It was a failure of the machinery itself. It was-
Right, right. There were two sections of the boiler that had to be sent out to the manufacturer.
Yeah.
And the manufacturer will make the call of whether it is a defect in manufacturing or whether it was a defect in maybe installation. But I haven't heard back from Johnson and Jordan yet, but I'm definitely under the impression that those sections are gonna be covered by warranty. I mean, the boiler's
I mean, they
almost
should
2
be
years
covered,
old.
in my book, period.
Yeah, oh,
Right.
You know,
absolutely, I agree.
These are brand new, what, we spent $50,000-$60,000
Yeah, there was 65,000 each.
each, right?
Two
of them.
years ago.
I
Two
mean,
of them,
that's
yeah.
a lot of money.
And,
So,
yeah, 3 years ago.
Bill, if anything other than this is either an installation or a manufacturer defect, I don't care who they put the finger at. If it comes back anything other than that, then Andy and I are gonna drive over to the company and have a conversation.
I'll
I
go-
can't
I'll go
believe it
with
either.
you,
Yeah, you wanna
okay?
come with us?
I mean, I'll
Okay.
go with you. No, it just doesn't seem like, for that amount of money,
Oh, I totally
for
agree.
brand-
We're with you, Joyce, on that
brand-
one for
brand
sure.
new.
We're surprised.
That's the way manufacturing goes today.
well,
awful.
were they done in China? Were they done?
I
where were
don't
they
know.
done? You know?
Probably-
Yeah, we're not gonna start anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Off the
are
rails, off
we
the
on
rails.
advertising? 5,400.
Advertising.
I think we're on advertising. So you can see it's flat at $120. Travel is flat at $100. General supplies, custodial maintenance supplies, including, and you can see paper, hardware, it's up a bit, it's up 11%. I'm gonna assume that's the cost of the goods.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, because you and I really haven't talked, you and Paula have, but,
Right.
yeah, okay. We've added $2,000, this is new for chairs, so we need to, and what I've asked with this is, we had a conversation about some of our furniture in the building is starting to get antiquated, because you have 3 sections of the building. I bet if you went out in Andy's up in the upstairs of your maintenance building, you'd probably find some original furniture, but we're not using that in the school from the 50s. But we have to upgrade and get new furniture over time. So what I've asked, in the future is that we do a very similar to what we do with long-range planning. We have a plan for a certain cohort might get a certain amount of new physical desks and chairs, this particular budget, and then the next particular budget, a refresh, so that we're always moving some furniture in and out depending on who got the last new set of chairs, for instance. These chairs are targeted for the middle school because we need them. There it is, but I think in the future budgets, you're gonna see a rotation of a cost. I can't tell you it's gonna be $2,000 every year because I don't know, but that's where these chairs came in and that's why they're there. Heating and energy is flat, excellent. That's always a conversation getter, but it looks like it's gonna be the same this year.
Do you bid that out with this school, or is it, you go with a whole bunch of
With
schools?
We
Sanford.
go in with Sanford.
Sanford, yeah. Not a co-op. Well, it is a co-op, but with one other district, but they have a bigger purchasing footprint, right? As a district with so many buildings. Yeah. We're getting pretty close to the end. Electricity is flat. Electricity expenses for the school.
No, that solar heat, part of the solar heating discount that we get, doesn't look like much. Is it really, does it amount to a
there's-
lot?
There's two things that
Credits.
have
Okay.
allowed us to keep the electricity flat. I think anybody that talks about their electrical bill,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not a good conversation.
No.
Ours hasn't gone up.
The cost has gone up so much, but through our LED
Yeah.
projects, through Efficiency Maine, as well as the solar credit purchase that we got in on, it's definitely, we're reaping the benefits of those two,
We're seeing it now.
yes.
I remember the first budget year after the LEDs and the solar, we didn't see much of an improvement. People were like, what's going on? I said, give it time. Now we're starting to see it. What we're doing is we're maintaining. That's good. Thank you, Andy. I'm glad you brought up the LED. I really
Yeah,
hadn't thought
I mean,
about
if we hadn't
that.
have done, taken those two measures,
Yeah.
that number would definitely be, significantly higher.
Mhm.
All I can say about that electrical is 35 years ago, the school was paying $30,000
Yeah.
for electricity. And that's a fact.
Right.
And through the efforts of the school, to be only paying $20,000 more 35 years later is pretty good. I know so happy today when I opened my CMP bill, it finally hit $400.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
What?
Wow.
I'm like,
What do you
oh
people
my
do?"
God. And my usage for the last month was less than it was last year. So,
Oh, he's
No,
got
but
more
I'm saying,
more
what-
people in his house than you do.
Right.
I know, but.
I sing in my car.
anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know what I do,
Great
but I
job,
don't have.
Andy.
I
Is that a
work from
furnace
home, I
or
have my
stove?
computer all
We have
day.
one cost center left.
Kids who watch TV.
We have one, and it's equipment, and it's flat at $3,000. And then you can take a look at your bottom totals. And that's the last of the ones we wanted to look at tonight. I want to thank Andy and Matt for being here tonight, and all of you for coming out on this cold night to do this work.
John, before we move on, there's been a couple of concerns and from the town hall. And I was gonna bring it up, I had said I was gonna bring it up at a meeting on Tuesday to the board, the selectmen. But I figured it was a good time to initiate it tonight. And whoever's here on the committee right now, feel free to respond. We were told, or I was told, that we don't scrutinize the school budget the same as we do the rest of the town. And I, myself personally, I don't see that I treat anybody any different. I ask a lot of questions and breakdowns and stuff, but it's a concern that the town hall wanted addressed to the finance committee. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up tonight, because it's about the school committee. And so when we have our meeting on Tuesday, when this is brought up at our foreign finance meeting, I doubt very much that there's gonna be representation from the school committee to answer any concerns. It doesn't need to be in conversation, I just wanted publicly, because I don't want somebody to watch a warrant finance meeting and we start having a discussion about the school without them being privy about, we're having a discussion about the school.
I want to add
Go
also
ahead,
that,
Leslie, you do that.
we talked about how much contractual things are involved with the school budget. So this morning I contacted John and asked for the pie chart. And he very kindly forwarded me the PowerPoint presentation that we got at our first school meeting. Excuse me. So I will be forwarding that to Warren Finance and to all the selectmen. So they know exactly what the school committee had presented to us as far as, their projections, and their pie chart just says it all.
And I would like to add, particularly, I'm not going to be at our meeting on Tuesday or the Wednesday meeting, which we work with the select board and getting information. I have to tell you, we have historic information over here, and we have numbers personified on this side of me. I mean, these are two of the tools that we have on our committee. History from Dennis, numbers from Leslie. I think that's why her hair's so curly. She does things with numbers that are incredible. So I look at this from a very different point of view. And I was talking with one of the other members. And we don't talk out of school. That's one of the things we do not talk out of school. But since I wasn't going to be there, I did ask Leslie if I could call into the meeting, and we've seen it done before, where cell phone to cell phone, I think one of the things, we've all asked questions here, and whether it was Amanda or our lovely lady who ran away from us because she'd been here enough, we ask a question, and sometimes we get the answer before the meeting is over. We definitely have it at the next meeting. And I think that all has to do with the strive statements. I really do. I think the respect that's shown on both sides of the table is just something that's rare. It's rare. And it makes working on this, nobody wants to see a budget go up 10%. Because, except for a few of us, we all pay taxes.
Right.
You know, somebody paid for mostly our kids. Some of you probably were paid for. No, you were not from here.
Not here,
Long
no.
Island. Long Island. Oh, we won't worry about that. You know, we know. But, you know, you know, even last week, there was something on the budget, I forget the line, it was 10,000, and I said, what do we need it for? And he said, well, let's make it 7. I mean, boom, it was cut like that. There was no, there was discussion, there was no back and forth. And now this is my fourth year on the committee. And I think it's one of the best working committees we have. And like Dennis said, a committee I was on in town before, we had an absolute rule. You did not talk about a person or a committee if they were not in front of you. You're not, unless somebody wants to represent you, come to our meeting next week. I'm not gonna be there. We wouldn't talk about you without saying to you tonight, where there's gonna be some kind of conversation come up. And, you know, it's,
It might be a 2-minute conversation with the Warren Finance Committee,
It
I
might
don't know.
be.
I got no idea. You know how meetings go.
yeah.
But I am gonna
it's,
bring it up at our meeting.
But I am gonna suggest that we have this in our own Warren Finance book.
Yeah, we stole it.
We stole it, yeah.
Yeah, we
We
stole
stole
it.
Right?
Does
We're
it
happy
work?
to, happy to share.
Oh, it was more fun to steal. Gotta have that little bit of, you know.
Got away with something.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It has not happened for so many years.
Do you read that before all your meetings?
I think we're gonna start
gonna
Tuesday.
start.
Yeah, we should,
We used
yeah.
to.
I'm going to, put that in. I mean, we read it at
At our
the
first
beginning,
meeting. Yeah.
at the beginning of our budget season.
Yeah.
We went over that.
Yeah.
So that was passed out to all of the committee members, and I did
Yeah,
read it.
everybody has one, a copy.
But that is a good idea to actually read it
Read it every meeting.
every meeting.
It's a
Reminders.
great idea. Our church has, it's called a covenant of care, and it's along the same lines. And we agree to this, we agree to this, you know, and
basically
just to state it at the beginning,
Yeah.
and then you move on and
And it basically all boils down to respect.
respect and kindness.
And, you know, treat others as you want, you know, golden rule.
Yes.
So, Dennis, are you saying but not saying that you'd like some of us to be there on Tuesday?
No, I
Okay.
just wanted everybody to be aware that,
There may be
I'm gonna be
conversation.
bringing it up
Yeah.
on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I didn't want somebody to watch the meeting late and say, well, geez, I wish they'd known they was gonna talk about us. But honestly, myself, personally, my read with the school is, I've been doing this for 50 years. I worked here at the school. For the most part, I understand the workings of how we got to where we are. And right to like the conversation with Andy tonight, or the conversation with Matt. Well, to understand what we need tomorrow, you gotta understand what we did yesterday. And some of it didn't work, some of it did work. And I asked more questions. I ask questions lots of times, even though I know the answer, because I think that everybody that's involved needs to know that answer. You know what I mean? And Kenny Paul used to say, be careful when you answer Dennis's question, because if he asks it, there's a good chance he already knows the answer. And so you want to tell him the truth. But I've had a great relationship with the school I've had a bad relationship with the school when it comes to money and finances. Judy and Jeanette remember very well the year when I was selectman that we took all your extra money and put it towards the taxes, and you guys ended up with a zero fund balance. And
That was not a good year.
that, if I had to do it over again, I'd probably do it different. Okay?
Wasn't legal.
But I still got away with it.
Was illegal.
Wow.
Dennis learned that lesson.
Well, you know, I just want to thank the school committee for how I'm received when I come in this building and how I'm received when I sit at this table with you and Mr. Ross and any other staff member that works here. And for me personally, there's other parts of the government that I just don't feel the love.
Well, thank you for serving, period. Thank you
Yes.
for serving. You know, you're all here of your own volition, you know, and we're all here, right? But thank you for serving, and thank you for having adult conversations and kind. It's not accusatory and all
I mean,
of that.
and then
It's not
sometimes we have to
contentious.
have difficult
Yes.
conversations.
Yes.
And we can do it as adults and
Right.
say, you know, and sometimes have to agree to disagree.
Right.
Without,
Yeah.
without nastiness.
Andy,
Right.
can I ask a question about the water coming in? Do you have an infiltration system, instead of like a sediment filter or
No.
a UV light?
No, no.
Then a UV light will let things come in.
Yeah, and actually, when we had problems that I had mentioned earlier, a while back, the UV filter was one of the options that we were looking into.
But thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give me my front of my office.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
Are
you.
we adjourned?
We can't
We are
forget.
adjourned.